So, okay, that's talking about alien life out there in the universe. But you've also earlier in the conversation mentioned the shadow biosphere. So, is it possible that we have weird life here on Earth that we're just not, like, even in a high assembly formulation of life,
Yeah.
that we're just not paying attention to, we're blind to? Like life we're
Yeah.
potentially able to detect, but we're blind to. And maybe you could say, what is the shadow biosphere in
Sure,
general?
sure. Yeah, the shadow biosphere is this idea that there might have been other original life events that happened on Earth that were independent from the original life event that led to us and all of the life that we know on Earth. And therefore, there could be aliens in the sense they have a different origin event living among us. And it was proposed by a number of people. But one of them was Paul Davies that I mentioned earlier is my mentor, and he has a really cute way of saying it, that aliens could be right under our noses or even in our noses. Um, with a British accent, it sounds better. But but anyway, so the idea is like it could literally be anywhere around us. And if you think actually about the discovery of like viruses and bacteria, for a long time they were kind of a shadow biosphere. It was life that was around us but invisible. But this takes it a little bit further and saying that, all of those examples, viruses, bacteria, and everything that we've discovered so far has this common ancestry and the last universal common ancestor of life on Earth. So maybe there was a different origin event and that life is weirder still and might be among us and we could find it. We don't have to go out into the stars look for aliens, just here on Earth.
Do you think that's a serious possibility that we should explore with the tools of science? Like, this should be a serious effort?
I think yes and no. And I mean, yes, because I think it's a serious hypothesis. And I think it's worth exploring. And it is certainly more economical to look for signs of alien life on Earth than it is to go and build spacecraft and send robots to other planets. And that was one of the reasons it was proposed is, well, if we do find an example of another original life on Earth, it's hugely informative because it means the original life is not a rare event. If it happened twice on the same planet, that means it's probably pretty probable given conditions are right. So it has huge potential scientific impact, not to mention the fact that you might have like biochemistry and stuff that's informative for like medicine and stuff like that. But I think that the thing for me that's challenging about it, and this really comes from my own work, like thinking about life as a planetary scale process and also trying to understand sometimes what I call like the statistical mechanics of biochemistry, but large scale statistical patterns in the chemistry that life uses on Earth. There are a lot of regularities there, and life does seem to have planetary scale organization that's consistent even with some of the patterns that we see at the individual scale. So if you think life is a planetary scale phenomena and the chemistry of life has to be sort of it's not an individual is not necessarily the fundamental unit of life, right? The fundamental unit of life is these informational lineages, and they're kind of, they intersect over spatial scales. So everything on Earth is kind of related by that common causal history.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me, based on the way I think about the physics and also some of the stuff that my group has done, to really think that there could be evidence or there could be a second sample of life on Earth. But I think there are ways that we need to be more concrete about that. And I have thought a little bit about like you can represent the chemistry in an individual cell as a network. And then those networks, something my group has shown, actually scale with the same properties. So ecosystems have the same properties as individuals as planetary scale. And then you could imagine if you had alien chemistry intermixed in there, that scaling would be broken. So if there's some robustness property or something associated to it, and you get alien chemistry in there, it just breaks everything. And you don't have a planetary ecosystem functioning and individuals functioning across all these scales. So I guess what I'm arguing is life is not a scale-dependent phenomena. It's not just cellular life. So if you have a shadow biosphere, it has to be integrated with all of these other scales.
And that would lose the meaning of the word shadow biosphere, I guess.
I think so, yeah. So it's an open question, right? And I think it would tell us a lot. So there has been very minimal effort of people to look for a shadow biosphere.
But then the question, it could be possible that there's like sufficiently distinct planets within one planet, meaning like environments within one planet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I've been looking recently because of having a chat with Catherine Declear about Io, the moon of Jupiter, that's like all volcanoes, and volcanoes are badass. But like
Yeah.
imagining,
Io's
like,
badass.
imagining life inside volcanoes, right? Like
Yeah.
it seems like sufficiently chemically different,
Mm-hmm.
like to be living in the darkness where
Right.
there's a lot of heat, and
Right.
maybe you can have different Earths on like a
Yes.
planet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or like if you go deep enough in the crust, maybe
yeah,
there's like a layer where there's no life and then there's suddenly life again. And maybe those, lizard men or whatever they are that people dream about are really down there. I know that's a little flippant, but really like there could be like chemical cycles deep in the Earth's
yeah.
crust that might be alive and are completely distinct in chemical origin to surface life.
Right, that they wouldn't be interacting
Yeah.
with each other.
Yeah. And that's one of the proposals for the shadow biosphere is like sometimes people talk about it as being geologically or geographically distinct, that it might be, you have no life for this region and then a different example. And then sometimes people talk about it being chemically distinct, that
Right.
the chemistry is sufficiently different that it's completely orthogonal or non interacting with our
It
chemistry.
seems to me, at least, the chemistry is a more powerful boundary
Yes.
than
Maybe.
than geographic. It just
Yeah.
seems like life finds a way, literally, to travel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It
so
does.